You know too much. Adaisy's breathing stopped, not because of the words, because of the way he said them. She suddenly understood. She backed toward the door.
You would kill me!
You would kill me. His answer came almost as a whisper.
I pray you forgive me.
She married a man. She died discovering he was a monster. 3 nights before the royal funeral, Queen Adais made a mistake that would cost her everything. She wasn't searching for secrets. She was simply looking for a ceremonial cloth that had gone missing before the annual Remembrance Festival.
The ceremonial cloth must be here.
The servants insisted it wasn't in the palace. She knew better. There was only one place left to check: the king's private storage chamber beneath the palace. In 22 years of marriage, her husband had never forbidden her from entering that room. He didn't need to. Love had always been enough to keep curiosity away. That night, for the first time, curiosity won. She carried a small oil lamp down the narrow stone staircase, its flame throwing long shadows against the damp walls. The air smelled old, untouched, like a place where time itself had stopped breathing. The ceremonial cloth wasn't there. Instead, she found something else. A black clay bowl resting alone on a carved stone altar. At first, it looked ordinary. Then she stepped closer. Dark stains clung stubbornly to its rim, stains no amount of water could ever wash away. Her heartbeat slowed.
Something about it felt
wrong. Very wrong. She lifted the lamp higher. Behind the altar, one loose stone sat slightly crooked, almost as if someone had hidden something in a hurry. Her hands trembled as she pulled it free. Inside lay several small bundles wrapped in faded cloth. One by one, she opened them. The first contained coral beads, the second, a lock of grey hair, the third, a blood-stained strip of wrapper. Her breath caught. She recognized it instantly. It had belonged to Chief Nwosu, who the village had been told died peacefully in his sleep 6 years earlier. She opened another. A bracelet, Mama Uju's. Another, a carved ivory pendant, the same pendant buried with Elder Okafor, or so everyone believed, one bundle after another. Everyone belonged to someone whose death had never made sense. People who had supposedly died from sudden illness. People who had been respected, powerful, influential, generous, standing in that chamber. The Queen realized something terrifying. None of them had died naturally. For 30 years, someone had been collecting them. Someone living inside this palace. She closed the final bundle carefully. Her whole body shook, not from fear, from disbelief. No, she whispered. No, this cannot be. She didn't run. She didn't call the guards. She didn't summon the elders. After 22 years of sharing a home, a table, a bed, she believed her husband owed her one thing: the truth. That night, she waited for him inside his private chamber. The king entered quietly, removing his crown as he always did before sleeping. He smiled when he saw her, then he noticed the black bowl sitting on the table. The smile disappeared. Neither of them spoke, not immediately. Adais looked at the man she had loved for more than 2 decades, the father of her children, the man she had defended countless times whenever the village questioned his decisions. Tears filled her eyes, not because she was afraid, because she already knew. I found the bowl. The king remained silent. I found everything.
I found everything.
Still, silence. Her voice broke. I married a man. She pushed the bundles toward him.
I married a man.
I did not marry this.
I did not marry this.
The king looked down at the bundles, then back at his wife. His expression never changed. No panic, no shame, no denial, only exhaustion, like a man who had finally reached the day he had always known would come.
You should never have
You should never have gone looking. Adaeze stared at him in disbelief. And you should never have given me a reason. A painful silence settled between them. Finally, she whispered the question she dreaded most. Tell me,
were they innocent?
innocent? The king closed his eyes. Just once, when he opened them again. There was nothing left inside them that resembled the man she had married.
There are prices,
he said quietly, that ordinary people could never
understand.
She stepped backward.
There is no throne worth this.
There is no throne worth this.
No kingdom worth becoming a monster.
No power worth becoming a monster. The king's voice became colder. You still think like a wife. I have had to think like a king. No, she shook her head slowly. A king protects his people. What have you become? For the first time, the king's face hardened. You know too much. Adaze's breathing stopped, not because of the words, because of the way he said them. She suddenly understood. There would be no explanation, no repentance, no confession, only silence. The terrible kind. The kind that buries people. She backed toward the door.
You would kill me!
You would kill me. His answer came almost as a whisper.
I pray you forgive me.
The next morning, Queen Adaeze was found dead in her bed. Her face looked peaceful, but her mouth remained slightly open, as though she had tried to scream, and something had stolen her voice before the sound could escape. The palace physicians declared it sudden illness.
It was a sudden illness.
The king declared 7 days of mourning, and the entire kingdom believed him. Almost.
My queen. My queen.
If you've been following this story from the beginning, this is the moment everything changes, until one brave person asks the wrong question. If you're enjoying the story so far, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Now, let's return to Okechukwu. Because while Achala buried a queen, another family was preparing to uncover the truth that would shake the kingdom
forever. The palace drums had not yet fallen silent from Queen Adaze's burial, when another funeral was taking place at the opposite end of Achala. There were no royal musicians, no palace guards, no long lines of mourners. Only 4 people stood inside Okechukwu's compound. Okechukwu, Ngozi, his mother, and old Mama Neka, who had come only because she refused to let the dead leave this world without dignity. The old woman who had collapsed on Okechukwu's doorstep lay wrapped in spotless white cloth beneath a small bamboo shelter. She had died trying to speak, trying to tell the truth, trying to finish a promise she had carried for more than 30 years. Now, only silence remained. The women finished washing her body before sunrise. Ngozi knelt quietly beside her mother. She did not cry anymore. Some grief becomes too deep for tears. She gently touched her mother's forehead one final time. Go in peace, Mama. You kept your promise. I'll keep mine. The men carried the body away for burial. As the last of them disappeared down the narrow village path, Okechukwu remained seated on the wooden bench outside his house. He hadn't spoken for hours. In his hand, the small carved wooden fish rested quietly against his palm. He turned it over. Again and again, running his thumb across its smooth surface as though it were hiding words no one else could see. Finally, he looked toward Ngozi.
What is this?
She already knew what he meant. Not the carving, the mystery, the truth. She walked over slowly and sat beside him. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The morning breeze carried the distant sound of women returning from the stream. Life in Achala continued, as though nothing had changed. as though one woman had not died trying to protect a secret, as though another queen had not been buried only hours before. Finally, Ngozi reached for the wooden fish, but she did not take it. She simply rested her fingers gently over Okechukwu's hand. It isn't an ordinary carving. What is it? She looked toward the Oyimiri River. When my mother realized she could no longer escape what was coming, she poured everything she knew into it. Okechukwu frowned. Everything? My memories, my knowledge, my promise, my protection, my love, my fears. My mother's final prayer. She smiled sadly. The river remembers everything. It never truly forgets. My mother knew she would never finish telling you the story. So she found another way. Okechukwu looked down at the fish again.
So this is memory?
River memory. It cannot lie. It only shows truth.
He looked up. Why didn't it show me before? Because it wasn't complete. She swallowed hard. It needed my mother's life.
When she
the words
died,
landed heavily between them. When she died,
the covenant awakened.
The covenant awakened. Okechukwu stared silently at the carving. Everything suddenly felt different. It was no longer a keepsake. It was a key. What happens now? Ngozi took a slow breath. You sleep. He almost laughed. Sleep. I haven't slept in 3 days. You must. What if nothing happens? She looked into his eyes. It will. Night came quietly. For the first time in days, the village seemed almost peaceful. No shouting, no rumors, no frightened whispers drifting between compounds, only crickets. And somewhere beyond the trees, the soft, endless sound of the Oyimiri River. Okechukwu lay awake on his mat. The wooden fish rested inside his hand. Its surface felt strangely warm, warmer than it had ever been before. Outside, clouds drifted slowly across the moon. Inside, his eyelids grew heavier. He tried to stay awake. He couldn't. The moment sleep claimed him, the warmth became light. He found himself standing in a field he had never seen before. Tall elephant grass danced in the evening wind. The sky burned orange. Somewhere nearby, water flowed gently over smooth stones. He knew this place, not because he had ever been there, because somehow it remembered him. Okechukwu. The voice came from behind. He turned. His breath caught. His father stood only a few steps away. Not the weak man lying on a sickbed from his childhood memories. Not the exhausted farmer buried decades ago. This man stood tall, broad-shouldered, strong, dressed in white royal cloth embroidered with ancient symbols. Coral beads rested proudly across his chest. His face carried peace and sadness at the same time. Papa. The word escaped before Okechukwu could stop it. His father smiled. My son. Okechukwu ran toward him, but just before reaching him, he stopped. Something inside him already knew this wasn't truly his father, not completely. It was memory, preserved, waiting. His father nodded gently. You understand? I'm not here. But everything I was still remains. Tears filled Okechukwu's eyes. I've waited my whole life to ask you something. I know. Who killed you? His father's smile disappeared. Instead of answering, he stretched out his hand. No. You must see. The truth is never as powerful when it is spoken. It must be witnessed. The world around them dissolved. The grass disappeared. The sky folded into darkness. Then, light returned. A different place, a different year, the Oyimiri River, 30 years earlier. Young fishermen laughed as they pulled in their nets. Women washed clothes along the riverbank. Children chased one another through the shallow water. Everything felt alive. Everything felt untouched by evil. Then, a scream, high, terrified. A little girl had wandered too close to the current. The water pulled her under. Villagers froze. Nobody moved. Except one man, Okechukwu's father. Without removing his wrapper, he dove into the river. The current swallowed him. For one terrifying moment, both disappeared beneath the surface. Then, he emerged, holding the child tightly against his chest. The little girl coughed violently. She couldn't have been older than 6. Her long, wet hair covered most of her face. Then she looked up. Okechukwu froze. It was Ngozi. His heart stopped. No. His father looked toward him. This is where everything began. The river suddenly became still, unnaturally still. The current stopped flowing. The birds stopped singing. Even the wind disappeared. Slowly, the surface of the water opened. 3 women rose from beneath it, not swimming, rising, as though the river itself had given them back to the world. One of them walked toward Okechukwu's father. She wasn't frightening. She was majestic, ancient, powerful. She bowed her head. You have done today what many men would never have done. You saved one of our daughters. She extended her hands. We owe you a debt. Okechukwu's father shook his head. No, I only saved a child. No child deserves to die while I still have strength to help. The woman smiled. You ask for nothing? He smiled back. If kindness expects payment, it was never kindness. The 3 women looked at one another. Something ancient had just changed. The eldest stepped forward again. Then hear our covenant. If darkness ever rises against your blood, our blood will rise with it. One of our daughters will walk beside your son. She will guard him until justice returns to your house. The youngest woman stepped forward. She gently placed her hand upon little Ngozi's head. The child looked confused, too young to understand, too innocent to know her future had just been written. Okechukwu stared in disbelief. So, Ngozi, his father's voice answered quietly, was never sent to become your wife. She was sent to become your protector. The vision slowly faded, but before everything disappeared, his father spoke one final sentence. The greatest surprise was not the covenant. It was that she chose to love you. Darkness swallowed everything. Darkness swallowed the river. For a brief moment, there was nothing. No sound, no wind, no light. Then the wooden fish grew warm again. The darkness slowly dissolved into another memory. This time, the air felt heavier. The sky was grey. The village was different. Not because the buildings had changed, but because hope itself seemed thinner. His father stood outside a modest compound, dressed not as a farmer, but as a prince. Coral beads rested proudly around his neck. Across his shoulder hung a white royal cloth embroidered with the ancient symbols of Achala's first royal house. He wasn't alone. Around him stood elders, chiefs, men and women speaking in hushed voices. One elder unfolded an old goatskin scroll. The council has spoken. The next Eze of Achalia shall come from the house of Obiakor. He looked directly at Okechukwu's father. The elder bloodline. The chiefs nodded. One after another, no one objected. The decision had already been made. Tomorrow, he would become king. Okechukwu smiled. My father. His father turned toward him, not as memory, but as though he could hear him across time. I never wanted the throne. I only wanted justice. The vision shifted. Night, rain, the palace. Hidden beneath the royal compound, a torch burned inside a chamber no villager had ever seen. Standing inside were 4 men, the young prince who would become king, Papa Ease, the king's chief advisor, and a hooded priest whose face remained hidden beneath black cloth. The room smelled of burning herbs, fresh blood, and damp earth. The hooded priest spoke first. The elders have chosen another. The young prince's jaw tightened. They've chosen weakness. They've chosen tradition. They've forgotten what power looks like. The priest stepped closer. There is another path. Papa Easy's face immediately changed. What path? The priest smiled. The path every ambitious man eventually finds. The king's advisor looked uneasy. What price? The priest answered without hesitation. Everything. Silence. The priest continued. You may have the throne. You may have wealth. You may have a reign longer than any king before you. You may have fear instead of loyalty. But nothing is free. The young prince didn't hesitate. What must I do? Papa Ease looked at him in disbelief. You haven't even heard the cost. The prince turned. I don't care. The priest smiled. The rightful heir must never wear the crown. Silence. He must disappear. Silence again. And after your reign begins. Every 20 years. The covenant must be fed. Papa Easy frowned. Fed? A member of your own royal household. And a respected soul from the village. The throne survives, only while the debt is paid. Even the advisor stepped backward. This is madness. The priest looked at him calmly. No. This is power. The room became completely still. Finally, the young prince spoke. I accept. Papa Easy's eyes widened. No. If you do this, Achala will never know peace. The prince turned slowly toward him. Peace belongs to the man sitting on the throne, and tomorrow, that man will be me. The vision blurred. The next memory arrived immediately. Morning, the coronation grounds. Villagers gathered happily. Drums echoed across the square. Okechukwu's father waited patiently beneath the sacred Iroko tree. He wore white. Children laughed nearby. Women sang. He looked completely unaware that death had already entered the village. Suddenly, a messenger arrived. Breathing heavily. The council requests your presence. There has been a change. The chiefs exchanged confused glances. What change? The messenger avoided everyone's eyes. The prince has fallen gravely ill. Gasps spread through the gathering. The ceremony was postponed. 1 day became 3. 3 became 7. 7 became mourning. The village believed illness had stolen the future king. Only now, Okechukwu understood. There had never been an illness. Only murder. Only betrayal. Only a throne soaked in invisible blood. Tears filled his eyes. His father's voice returned. They poisoned my body. But they murdered something greater. They murdered truth. The world shifted once more. This time, he saw his father walking through the forest at sunset. Someone waited beneath a great Udala tree. Ngozi's mother, much younger, she carried a small clay pot wrapped carefully in faded red cloth. His father placed both hands upon it. This must never fall into the wrong hands. She looked frightened. What if they find me? They will. What if they kill me? They may. What if they come for my daughter? His father's eyes softened. Then tell her, never carry this. Until the day my son has become strong enough to carry it beside her. He carefully removed the covering. Inside rested 4 sacred objects. The royal coral beads, the ancient Ofo staff, the royal signet ring, and the scroll of succession, the oldest symbols of Achala's true kingship. His father gently covered them again. These are not treasures. They are witnesses. They remember. They cannot lie. As long as these survive, the truth survives. Ngozi's mother accepted the pot with trembling hands. I swear, by the river, I will protect them. His father smiled. No, you will protect hope. The vision faded again, but one final memory remained. Years later, a little girl, Ngozi, barely 8 years old. Her mother knelt before her, placed the clay pot into her tiny hands. The child immediately tried to give it back. I don't want it. It's too heavy. Her mother smiled sadly. It isn't heavy because of clay. It's heavy because of destiny. The little girl shook her head. What if bad people come? They will. What if they kill us? They may. What if I fail? Her mother gently touched her face, then buy him time. Even if it costs everything. The vision stopped. Okechukwu woke with tears running down his face. The wooden fish had become completely cold. Ngozi was already sitting beside him. She knew. You've seen it. He nodded silently. For several moments, he couldn't speak. Finally, he whispered, "You carried that burden." Since you were a little girl, she smiled through her tears. I wasn't afraid of the pot. I was afraid of losing you before you became the man your father believed you could become. Okechukwu reached for her hands. For the first time since all of this began, he truly understood. She hadn't protected a secret. She had protected him. Before he could say another word, they heard hurried footsteps outside. Not one man, not two. Many, metal striking against metal, the sound of armed guards. Then, a heavy knock shook the wooden door. Open in the name of the king. Another knock, harder. The king commands your presence at the palace. Ngozi slowly stood. Her face had gone pale. She looked toward Okechukwu. The time your mother bought has finally run out. Okechukwu looked down at the wooden fish one last time, then tucked it carefully inside his wrapper. When he stood again, he no longer looked like the frightened farmer from episode 1. He looked like a man who had just discovered that history had been waiting for him all his life. He walked toward the door, opened it, and stepped outside to face the men who had come to arrest him.
If this story moved you, don't just watch it, be part of it. Like this video, subscribe, and type continue in the comment. Because the truth is, the final episode isn't written yet. And I want to build it with you. When this reaches enough people, I'll bring you the ending this story deserves.